Well, it's unique in that it was the first one-stop location on the Lincoln Highway in the whole state of Iowa when it was started by Charlie Reed back in the the early 20s.
I know Charlie owned this area as farm ground originally, and it's still in the family. The area north of the Lincoln Highway here on out about a mile is still owned by John Niland, and Charlie took a small corner of the farm, which was where we're at here, and decided it would be a good place to start a business because the automobile business was starting to move well. So he built a little gas station up on the corner here at the intersection of what was then the Jefferson and Lincoln Highway, which is something people forget. You know, we are basically the only place in the world where two transcontinental highways intersected. You know, everybody's familiar with the Lincoln. It went from San Francisco to New York, but the Jefferson was the Palm to Pine Highway. It started in Winnipeg, Canada, and went to New Orleans. And the two met right here in Colo, Iowa. So between the two roads, there was a lot of traffic, and Charlie decided that you know, it'd be a good place as a budding entrepreneur. He thought, well, let's put a gas station out here. So that's how it started. Eventually, the Niland family got involved. They built a small lunch stand over on the other side of the Lincoln Highway, and it grew, and eventually they started the cafe.
As of July of 2011, I opened Niland's Cafe. It had been closed about a year and a half, and have been working on trying to build the clientele back up. And also another facet I've been trying to work on is getting some events scheduled here, because it really is a nice community spot. The donor board, as you probably noticed, is long and extensive, and all those people have a vested interest in the time and money that's been invested. Elements are as it was. The big booth, for example, here, which seems to be a lot of people's favorite spot to land in, had a more rounded design. They have a nice scrapbook that someone did of the restoration. It, you know, shows some before and after pictures. I believe they found that there were maybe 6 or 7 different add-ons, so it's kind of been as it grew. The dining room, for example, was not originally there. Its original name was actually the L&J for Lincoln and Jefferson, and those letters were still found on the outside facade, and they covered them up but left them intact, and, you know, documented them as well.
Because it was a good cafe and very popular, and then the motel units. And early on, people stopped here just to camp out on the grounds here. That's how it got started. And then after a year or two of camping, back in the 20s, Charlie Reed, the owner, built some little cabins, and he would rent them cabins. So it's just progression from camping without cabins to motel units to a larger motel. It's been a progression over the years.
I started working here when I was in about 7th grade. I'd ride my bicycle the 2 blocks up and worked with on weekends with 2 or 3. There usually a couple of us here. The other guy'd usually be a high school kid and myself, and it was a very active place. 30 was the only road. Lincoln Highway was 30, and so we sold a lot of gas. It was a full-service operation, so when people pulled in, we'd wash the windows and check the oil and fill the gas, and we also did a little bit of tire work. People would come and buy tires, and we'd repair flat tires, those types of things. So it was a busy place. It was a 24-hour operation when I worked here. The cafe was also 24 hours. Well, the whole corner was 24 hours because we handled the motel rental here out of the station. So there was a lot going on here, and they only had 2 full-time people working here. They both pulled 12-hour shifts, and then we kind of relieved during the weekends so those people could get some time off. So most of what you see here was here when the station closed, and that was about 1967. So most of the items you see in here, there were a few donated items here and there, but by and large, most of these, the memorabilia or the relics you see in here were actually here. The tools we used to change tires are still in the drawers there. There was if you go into the drawer under the cash register, there's a deer's foot taped up with electrical tape. That was used for a billy club, so if they had any problems in that midnight to 8 in the morning shift, why they could defend themselves. So, you know, there's a lot of those types of things still here.
This thermometer sign is one of the things that was always a mark of this station. There were always a lot of pictures taken and always had a lot of various signs on it, but there was always that sign, that kind of a sign, the Red Crown gasoline thermometer sign. It's a very popular sign. But when we got to restoring it, the sign wasn't here. And we wanted one, really wanted one, because it'd always been there. And well, one day, Mike Olson, whose dad and grandpa ran the Texaco station on Main Street, probably who they got in the price war with, I suppose. Mike was the one that inherited that old station, and it was closed at that time. And he said, Joe, he said, there's a whole bunch of old signs up here. If you'd like any, why, come up and look. And I said, well, I don't think we need any Texaco signs because this is a Standard Oil station, but we'll look at them. And so I met him up there and walked in, and the first sign I saw was this one. And I said, Mike, where'd you get that? Well, he said, you know, I bought that house over there in the north part of Colo. And he said, I was cleaning up a dirt pile there, and I pulled that sign out of the dirt pile. I said, isn't that where Trot Lambeth lived? And I believe Trot worked here. And so I just know that when it got taken down, it had to haul over there to Trot's. And so I feel 100% confident that that is the original sign.
I also manage the 6-unit motel. The restoration itself was done by the Colo Development Group. For the most part, in 2003, they restored the station and the restaurant, and then in 2008, restored the motel. And it's been really interesting as far as the people that seem to come to Niland's from outside of the local area. That's been one of the more interesting facets. We've had motel guests from Canada and Guatemala. We had one fellow that was riding his bike from Salt Lake City to Vermont. We've had people that I refer to as historic highway travelers. They're trying to sort of touch base with either, you know, parents that had a honeymoon trip. We had one guy bring in his wedding picture of his parents, and he was, sure they had stayed here. And then more recently, another fellow from up by Charles City had come, and when in talking with him, he mentioned his father and some buddies had gone to California on the Lincoln Highway in the 20s in a Whippet. So he was interested in the whole experience and booked a room, had dinner, had breakfast, I think read every sign on the place, and was trying to absorb that whole historical experience. I think it's a family restaurant. It obviously has the nostalgia piece with it. We use the byline, great food with a side of history, because of the museum inside. And we try to weave that history into the menu as well. The ham and bean soup, for instance, has been on every menu since it's been in operation, every step along the way. And we serve that with a corn muffin, as it's always been served. And I bring a little bit of my background to the menu with a couple of German dishes. We have a German dip, for example, and we have Reubens. So we also have good burgers, and so we get some of the people that are looking for that experience from this being their high school hangout, and burgers, fries, malt shakes, and things like that. So I would say it's road food, but we try to also have some healthy choices, salads, which I don't know if the original Nilands would have had, but We do daily specials, Tuesday through Fridays, and then on Sundays we do a little breakfast buffet. As far as the motel, I have 6 units, and the rest of the old motel has been converted to apartments that the city runs. So I have 6 available, and we have nightly rentals as well as some short-term for workers in the area, Union Pacific workers, family reunion overflow, and that sort of thing. But they've been restored to modern conveniences, but still have the the historic character. My husband and I had been very involved in the Lincoln Highway Association over time. I'd worked with them as far as their website, and he's still currently county counsel for Benton County over by Cedar Rapids, where we come from. And we've had meetings here over time, and when it's been open as well as when it's been closed. The most recent one was last year, and we had sandwiches catered in, and it, I don't know, somehow struck me that a lot of think time to sort of wonder if it was possible to get it open one way or another, and if I might be the person to use some of my Lincoln Highway connections and promotional pushes to kind of get it back where it needed to be in terms of where it fits into highway history. And everything kind of coincided a little bit with the Lincoln Highway Heritage Byway signing going up as well. That was an important project for the Lincoln Highway Association in Iowa, about 12 years of work to get it to that point and work with the DOT and map the routes. So that coincided nicely, and now with the Jefferson, for this particular site, the Jefferson Highway Association forming last March and having their national or international conference in Ames this April. I guess it's not next year anymore. Is very important, because Colo has had a Crossroads Festival for years and years and years, and that's really what it all goes back to, the fact that this is the crossroads of the first east-west transcontinental and first north-south.
Well, Niland's Corner was decided to restore it in the late 90s. 99, I believe, was when we got organized, and the community got behind the project, and it took about 3 or 4 years to get the whole thing done and restore it.
It's been a good project from the get-go, and with the scenic byway signage that the Lincoln Highway has established here just within the last several months, I think that the traffic will actually increase. There's getting to be more and more people interested in the historic tourism, and that's where we're at. And wherever you go, you see it. Silos and Smokestacks, which is an organization, they're promoting various things that's along those lines. I was at a meeting day before yesterday in Des Moines, a Central Iowa tourism region, and it's amazing how many people have, ag history, a lot of transportation-related history. And if you go up and down the Lincoln Highway, we're starting to see more sites developed there. The Jefferson Highway, quite frankly, is just a gem right now. It's a stone waiting to be polished, because the Jefferson Highway Association basically went away and was just reestablished last March. So it's less than a year old. So we're building a membership there to promote the Jefferson Highway from Winnipeg to New Orleans. And right now we have more members in Iowa in that association than any other state. So I look for that to be a very positive thing for us. As a community, we developed, and the community got behind the project. They put their money in the project. We took money, from federal sources that passed through the state. So we got a lot of public/private money invested in here. So I think we have to try to, maximize that investment. So yeah, I plan on staying involved in it as long as I can. And it's something I'm interested in, because quite frankly, I worked here.